Hello and welcome to Roblox News. I'm Julian Cross.
I'm Amy Hall.
And I'm Mark Morris.
Today we'll be telling you our yearly coverage of the major events of the war in the year 1940. But first, we are now letting you know that Terry Green is okay and is currently heading back home. He and the 50,000 other Polish soldiers were able to escape Poland after Germany and the Soviet Union invaded the country. The Polish government had also formed a government in exile in Paris.
The first major event of the war was the invasion of Norway and Denmark, which began on April 9th and ended on June 10th, with the German victory due to German aerial support and speed. Germany's army invaded France and the Low Countries during the Battle of France, starting from the 10th of May to the 25th of June. The French army had mobilized around 1 million men, aided by the British Expeditionary Force.
Before the battle began, the Germans knew they couldn't fight directly with the French at the Maginot Line, a fortified defensive line that stretched from the French border of Germany, Switzerland, and Italy. The line was supposed to protect the French from a German invasion. German forces decided to push through the Ardennes forests, which was believed to be difficult terrain to pass through.
The French were quoted saying, "No one would be stupid to drive tanks and hundreds of thousands of soldiers into a massive forest." But that is exactly what the Germans did.
The Germans were able to invade and take over Luxembourg in only 1 day, and the Netherlands in only 4 days during the invasion. The Germans gave the Dutch an ultimatum: surrender or Rotterdam will be destroyed. And while the bombers were en route to the city, the Dutch surrendered. But the news was never given to the aircrew, and Rotterdam was devastated soon after Belgium would fall.
These rapid victories were due to German panzers, or tanks, and their fast mobile warfare strategy called Blitzkrieg, or lightning war, along with their installed radio equipment that would make communication almost instant, which was seen in the invasion of Poland. The German infantry, though, would be slowly trailing behind the tanks.
The German Air Force during the battle was able to gain complete air superiority, which helped their dive bombers wreak havoc on the Allies. By that time, the Allies realized that the Germans were going to encircle them and started to fall back.
The Allies, however, were delayed by a massive amount of refugees sent by the Germans to stop them.
By the 21st of May, the French Army and British Expeditionary Forces were cut off at the port of Calais and Dunkirk.
The Germans sent the Air Force to bomb the surrounded Allied forces into ashes. By that time, the British had put Operation Dynamo into action, which was the evacuation of Dunkirk.
Hundreds of ships, most civilian craft, were called in to move across the English Channel to get their soldiers home. They were under constant air attack from the Germans as the British RAF, or Royal Air Force, tried to stop the German air forces from obliterating the retreating men. But this evacuation would have never happened without the actions of the French and British forces at Calais, who fought a bloody 3-day siege where they were able to hold the line for the forces at Dunkirk. Around 400,000 British and French soldiers were evacuated from the beach.
Most of their equipment and vehicles were lost at the beach. Prime Minister of Britain, Winston Churchill, had these words to say after the evacuation.
"We shall defend our island, whatever the cost may be. We shall fight on the beaches. We shall fight on the landing grounds, in the fields, and the streets. We shall never surrender. And even if, which I do not for a moment believe, this island, or a large part of it, was subjugated, then our empire beyond the seas, armed and guarded by the British fleet, will carry on in the struggle until in God's good time, the new world with all its power and might sets forth on the liberation and rescue of the old." Gentlemen, one last thing before I go. Just remember, we are the British. We always win.
A week later, Italy declared war on Britain and France. On June 14th, the Germans marched into Paris, replicating their 1871 victory parade during the Franco-Prussian War, and raised their flag on the Eiffel Tower. What the Germans couldn't do in the Great War, Adolf Hitler and his generals had done in 6 weeks.
Parisians watched the Germans enter the City of Light with their faces in shock and horror. Days later, France surrendered.
Now Britain and her Commonwealth stands alone against the power of fascist aggression. This has been the World News with me, Amy Hall.
And me, Mark Morris.
And me, Julian Cross. Good night.